During dinner, I told Ethan that I wanted to break up with him. Because I didn't wear the outfit you put together, he asked. He gave a helpless little laugh. Yeah, you know what my job is like? Then he sighed. How long is it going to be this time? We had been together since we were 18. First classmates, then lovers. We fought through the difficult, cramped years side by side, all the way until we reached the top. He thought I wouldn't have the heart to let go. But he didn't know that breaking up was only the final step. I had already quit my job and my next destination was already decided. Yes, I was going somewhere as far from him as possible to fulfill the promise I made to myself years ago, including the promise he once made to me. This time, I truly wanted to leave him just because I was wearing the clothes she brought over. The dim candlelight in the Western restaurant cast a soft glow on Ethan's face. He let out a quiet sigh. Is this really necessary, sweetheart? I nodded. Let's end it. He rested his elbow on his forehead, then after a long moment, lifted his head to look at me. How many times have you said you want to break up now? I haven't cheated on you. I haven't hit you. I haven't gone cold. And I haven't done anything wrong to you. I accidentally bit the tip of my tongue and the sting made me wince. Ethan froze, then handed me a napkin as he leaned back in his chair. After taking a deep breath, he turned back to me again. Didn't you say the same thing half a month ago? I'm exhausted from filming, Tessa. Don't start anything again. I studied myself. I'm not starting anything. He let out a cold laugh. Fine, don't regret it. I'm done eating, I said as I stood up. The chair scraped lightly against the floor. Just as I turned around, I saw Samantha poking her head in, ready to walk in. She didn't even seem to have planned on knocking. When she saw me, she gave only a brief nod, clearly professional. But when she turned to Ethan, her expression suddenly shifted into one of discomfort. Ethan, Miss Warren sent a new script over. I'm not too sure about it, so maybe you could take a look. Ethan didn't pay attention to her. His eyes were on me. If this had been before, I definitely would have snapped. Was a film from God himself really more important than this one dinner? But this kind of thing had happened too many times. I was tired. I was about to keep walking when Samantha grabbed my arm. Tessa, I didn't mean to interrupt, she said. She hesitated as if she had just realized she came at the worst possible moment. I just started this job. There are still a lot of things I'm uncertain about, so I have to ask Ethan more often. I'll leave right away. Please don't be mad at him. He filmed so many scenes today. He must be tired. I couldn't hold back anymore. This is your first time working as an assistant for an artist, isn't it? I said. This dinner was booked 3 days ago. You didn't know? Was I the one who pushed him to come? Or was I the one who pushed the director to add more scenes today? You just took over his schedule. So that's why you had a high fever in the middle of the night, and instead of going to the hospital you called him. You just took over. So you don't know that his personal plans have nothing to do with you. You just took over, and yet every time we have a date you always show up no matter what. Do you not have friends? Or is your job not busy enough? Or is it because you're our junior that you think it's fine to be shameless and thick-skinned? Samantha's mouth opened slightly as if she had been terribly wronged. Even under the dim light, the redness around her eyes and the shimmer of tears were undeniable. She glanced at Ethan, then lowered her head toward me. That's enough. Ethan stepped forward to pat her back, then looked at me with a frown. The more you talk, the more out of line you get. It's just one meal. She'll know next time. Next time. I no longer wanted another dinner for 3. Samantha's tears fell silently, but the soft choked breaths and forced endurance were painfully clear. Not becoming an actress was truly a waste for her. I suddenly found the whole thing laughable. Such an old trick, yet Ethan, a professional actor, acted like he didn't see it. In the end, it was just a scene both sides willingly played. I shook my head and pushed the door open to leave. When I submitted my resignation to Miss Warren, she didn't sign it immediately. Setting aside whatever's going on between you and Ethan, she said, I genuinely acknowledge your ability. I knew a lot of companies wanted to hire me for operations work. If this is only because of Ethan, Miss Warren said, I can arrange for you to transfer to another team. I froze for a moment. So after all these years, love mixed with work had become part of my professional skill set. Miss Warren noticed my hesitation. I won't sign it yet. Take a month off first. Then give me your answer. When I got home, I fell into a deep sleep and didn't wake up until the next evening. The moment I opened WeChat, I saw Samantha's newest post. My first time attending a fashion gala. I didn't know how to style my outfit, but fortunately, Ethan personally helped me choose. I used to bury myself only in work, and now I'm realizing how beautiful the world looks when you look up. I hope I can keep up with his pace. The attached photo showed her alone in an evening gown, but in the background, his tall silhouette was unmistakably clear. A cautious, secretly taken picture, her longing embroidered all over it. And the outfit he wore, the black suit, was the very one I had picked out for him yesterday. My phone chimed right on cue. I wore it. Are you satisfied now? He included a full-body mirror selfie. Almost 24 hours had passed, and he still thought everything revolved around whether he wore a certain outfit or not. I scrolled through all the tasks related to his public image on my work device. Every carefully edited photo, every line of promotional content crafted for his persona, even the precise timing of each post down to the minute. All these years, he had never once deviated from the image I built for him, but he had already strayed far from the trajectory of my life. I deleted his contact information, then I erased every file connected to his name. The next day I went back to my old home. My grandmother stared at me, startled. Why are you so skinny? Aren't you making lots of money now? Don't tell me you can't even afford to eat. She touched my face with a pained look. Where's that Ethan boy? Why isn't he with you? You're not eating and he just lets you be, yet he still dresses himself up in fancy perfume and all that. I turned my head and saw his new drama playing on the TV. I didn't even bother explaining that actors always look rounder on screen. In reality, Ethan was very thin, but someone else would eventually take care of his meals and sleep. It wasn't my job to feel sorry for him anymore. I threw myself into my grandmother's arms. I'm starving. I want tomato and egg noodles. After slurping down the whole bowl, I finally said it. Grandma, I think I'm about to be unemployed. You've got to take care of me. She was still clearing the dishes, her hands never stopping. I'd love that, but you're the one who can't sit still. And how long can you really stay away from that Ethan boy? You're just like your mother. You can't be saved. I wrapped my arms around her thin frame from behind. Grandma, I'm different. One whole generation apart. Then I said, seriously, between Ethan and myself, which one is more important? I can still tell the difference. I want to go out. Will you come with me? She held on to me for a moment, then turned around and pushed me away lightly. Go wash your mouth first. She didn't say anything else, but I knew she was definitely smiling. Right then, the alert from the doorbell camera chimed on my phone. The picture showed Samantha's face clearly again. Now what is it? Something urgent. My grandmother didn't look surprised. She just waved her hand, signaling me to go. Next time, tell me beforehand so I can go to the market. My job never gives advanced notice. And that was when I finally realized that because of work, because of Ethan, I had spent years rushing in and out without ever slowing down. After taking 2 steps, I turned back. As expected, my grandmother was still standing in the kitchen watching me. When she realized she'd been caught, she acted like she was busy cleaning. It turns out that people who truly care about you can't hide it, no matter how hard they try. When I returned to the studio, no one was there, but I still called the police. Tessa, I didn't mean it, Samantha said. Ethan said he needed a few documents copied from you, so I opened the door myself. I texted you, but you didn't reply. So, because I didn't reply, you just let yourself in? I said. If I hadn't changed the passcode, were you planning to sit inside and have tea? I looked at her coldly. Samantha's eyes were already glistening, as if she were about to cry like a pear blossom in the rain. It felt like she was still missing one final step. And right at that moment, the investigation room door opened. Of course, Ethan hadn't even arrived yet. So what was she crying about? Ethan. Samantha immediately stood up and began explaining. I didn't mean to. I know Tessa doesn't like me. I was afraid she'd get upset again, so I made the decision on my own. I really just wanted to get the documents. That's all. Ethan was still out of breath. This studio was a place we had rented together in the very beginning, back when we were broke, and had even slept on mats on the floor. Later, he bought a house and I got my own place too. But whenever I was working, I still preferred staying here. All our old documents, letters, scripts, every piece of our past was piled up inside. Being surrounded by all that gave me a sense of dedication, of being wrapped inside something we had built with our own hands. It meant a lot to me. What's going on? Why is it so loud? Ethan scolded, but his eyes were on me. Samantha bit her lip and tried to hold back her tears, looking unbelievably wronged. It's all my fault, she said. It has nothing to do with Tessa. His personal assistant, who had followed behind him, glanced over once and hurriedly turned to the female officer to smooth things over. They all know each other. This is just a misunderstanding. Sorry for the trouble, officer. But the female officer didn't budge. Her eyes were fixed on me. Ethan took the chance to pull me out to the hallway. He lowered his voice, trying to be gentle. Nothing was damaged. If you're mad at me, fine. But don't take it out on her. Why does it have to blow up like this? What if this turns into news? You gave her the passcode? I asked. He paused, his expression stiffening. She asked if you sent the documents and you told her you were sending her here. Enough, he said. She's my assistant. Getting documents isn't wrong. Do you really want her to be held for questioning for a few days? What are you going to tell Miss Warren then? If this ends up in the news, aren't you the one who has to clean it up? So he still didn't know I planned to resign. Wow, Ethan, you actually think you're being fair? Amazing. You really think I'm making trouble for her because of you? I said right now. She tried to get into my office without permission. I called the police and somehow I'm wrong. And you even think she's the one who deserves sympathy. It's my fault, Samantha cried from the doorway. Tessa, if you want me to apologize or compensate you, I'll do it. But can we handle this privately? Please, I'm begging you. Her act only made me angrier. But before I could say anything, Ethan raised a hand. Don't make a big deal out of this anymore. This studio is under my name. Then he opened the door and went in to resolve things. Right. I had forgotten the studio had been bought under his name. I had just stayed in it for so long that I forgot I was only a temporary user. Let's go. The car's parked outside, Ethan said, stepping between me and Samantha as he pointed at the waiting van. No, too many people. I don't like crowds, I said, turning to leave. Is that actor Ethan over there? I heard he has a longtime girlfriend. Who's that? Must be the one inside, right? And the girl outside looks mad enough to explode. Sounds about right. A small group of strangers had gathered out of nowhere, whispering and gossiping. When I returned to the studio again, I still felt a tightness in my chest. I picked up my phone only to realize I had no one to talk to. Over the past few years, I kept running nonstop on this road faster and farther. Besides Ethan and a few coworkers, I practically didn't have a single real friend I could bare my heart to. So what was the price of growing up? What was the standard for success? Really? Suddenly a message popped up. I'm getting married. You two have to come. Okay. It was a mutual friend of Ethan's and mine from back in the day. Congrats, I replied. What about you two? When's it our big star's turn? My fingers trembled slightly above the keyboard. We broke up, I typed. It was only when I wrote it out that I realized it was actually real. Back then, every time we fought and threatened to break up, we always kept it to ourselves. We never told anyone, just to leave a way back for each other. And sure enough, back then there was always a chance to turn things around. Like when he'd ask me out to see some movie I'd been wanting to watch, hold my hand tightly on a quiet street corner, and tell me he still remembered exactly what I liked. Or when he quietly planned a week-long trip to Europe just for the two of us. No one else allowed, and work strictly banned from intruding. As long as he was willing to turn back, I was always willing to forgive. In the chat window, the typing indicator appeared, and then a new message arrived almost immediately. Are you serious? That's hard to believe, Tessa. You two have always been so in love. Did you get caught up in some scandal or something? You can't trust the rumors online. I get bad press all the time. If it's not once a day, it's 3 times a week. It's all nonsense. I let out a small laugh. I work in this industry. Who would understand that better than me? The phone screen went dark, but that one line, "You two have always been so in love," was like a tiny thorn stabbing right into my fingertip. It wasn't fatal, but it was stubborn, dull, and aching. Yeah, we really had been that in love before. So good together that everyone on the outside, including the version of me standing here now, had the illusion that we were meant to be together for the rest of our lives. The winter when we were 18 was bitterly cold. I wrapped myself tight in a bulky puffer jacket, stomping my feet to stay warm, my breath puffing out in white clouds. Next to me stood a skinny boy in a thin jacket, his lips pale from the cold, his knuckles flushed red, yet he still had his head bowed, repeating his lines over and over, eyes so focused they almost seemed to glow. "Want some hot water?" I held my thermos out to him simply because I couldn't stand watching anymore. He froze for a second. His ice-cold fingers brushed the back of my hand as he took the bottle. "Thanks." His voice was clear, carrying a faint, barely noticeable nervousness. That was Ethan. Maybe the gears of fate started to click and turn from that one bottle of warm water. We got into the same university in the same class. His acting talent was outstanding. The teacher said he was blessed by the gods of the craft themselves. Unfortunately, his family situation was pretty ordinary, even a bit difficult. I, on the other hand, leaned more toward behind-the-scenes work. My first real flutter of feelings started under the bright lights that stayed on all night in the rehearsal room. When he still couldn't fully get into character, I would sit in the audience seats, helping him over and over to build the character's backstory, breaking down the meaning behind each line, running scenes with him. He was unbelievably quick. Just a little nudge and he'd immediately understand. And then when he truly lit up on stage, emotions erupting, sweat soaking through the shoulders of his costume, his eyes blazing so intensely that no one could look away, he would run off stage and pull me into a tight hug in the empty hallway. That hug carried hot sweat and the pure joy of a young man, almost burning my skin. Back then, Ethan was like a rough piece of jade that hadn't been polished yet. He needed me, needed my eyes to see into the character, needed my analysis to unlock the character's mind. He needed me in the audience to be his first and most loyal viewer. He once said, "Tessa, if I really become an actor someday, half the credit will be yours." And I only smiled quietly, tucking those words away. I knew everything was just beginning. Graduation meant unemployment. That was reality for most acting students, and Ethan was no exception. We rented a room that wasn't even 10 square meters. In the summer it felt like a steaming pot. In the winter the walls wept with cold moisture. He was like any other young person without connections, running from one production crew to another, sending out resumes, taking silent background roles or tiny parts with a single line like, "Yes, sir," before being dismissed with a boxed lunch. The sense of failure washed over him again and again like a relentless tide. Meanwhile, I used my clumsy Photoshop skills to fix his resume and make the few photos he had look less terrible. I burrowed through film forums and casting groups, hunting for even the smallest glimmer of opportunity. Every time he was rejected, I dragged him out to the riverside to catch the breeze and told him, "Don't rush. If it's real, it'll shine. I believe in you." We leaned against each other, never taking a step apart. And little by little, he really did start to shine. We moved out of that dark little room and rented what later became our studio, a place overflowing with memories of the two of us. But after the initial excitement came a workload multiplied many times over. I almost became his personal assistant, stylist, image manager, and therapist all at once. I filtered scripts, analyzed the strengths and weaknesses of each role, ran his social media accounts, handled the press, and when he broke down mentally, I was the only place he could pour out everything and lean on. Then everything settled into a steady rhythm. He finally gained wide recognition. On stage at an awards ceremony, under the dazzling lights, his handsome face illuminated. He thanked the director, the team, the fans, and at the very end, his gaze cut through the crowd and landed right on me, filled with unhidden gentleness and reliance. He didn't say a word, but tears already pricked my eyes. In that moment, overwhelming satisfaction and utter exhaustion crashed into me at the same time. I felt like a craftsman who had poured everything she had into bringing her work into the world's spotlight. Every bit of effort felt worth it. I never asked for credit in Ethan's accomplishments because I believed we understood each other. He had filled my youth. He was where I placed all my effort and longing. We were teammates, lovers, and family. That was precisely why what he called fairness, paired with that unconscious favoritism, felt like betrayal to me. My phone lit up again. It was a long voice message from that same friend. I pressed play. Her rushed voice echoed in the quiet room. "Tessa, I just talked to Ethan. He didn't say anything's wrong between you two. Did you misunderstand something? That new assistant, is it?" Oh my God. Someone that insignificant isn't going to shake a 10-year relationship. We all saw how good Ethan was to you. Maybe it's just a misunderstanding, right? Don't be impulsive, okay? If it's a misunderstanding, then it's a misunderstanding, right? I thought, no, that so-called misunderstanding was the wear and tear of every single day. The boundary pushed over and over. The boy who once held me tightly in the dark was now used to the blinding stage lights, and slowly savoring the admiration coming from someone else. 10 years felt like a film reel unspooling too fast in my mind. Sweet moments, hardships, battles fought shoulder to shoulder. All of it stopping at the image inside the police station when he stood protectively in front of Samantha, frowning as he said, "This studio is under my name." I took a deep breath and tapped the screen. There's no misunderstanding. 10 years is long enough to see through a person. Long enough to finally let myself go. The wedding was held at a private estate. I deliberately arrived late and chose a seat in the far corner. The bride and groom were greeting their guests. Lights overlapped softly, and the sweetness in the air felt like it was filling the entire room. I lowered my head and took a sip of champagne. The bubbles burst on my tongue, carrying a faint bitterness and cool crispness. "Tessa!" A voice called my name, lowered on purpose, but still unable to hide the surprise and excitement. I didn't need to look up to know who it was. Samantha, in a pale pink cocktail dress, simple but beautifully tailored, looked bright and youthful. She held 2 glasses of champagne and casually sat down in the empty chair next to me as if we were actually close friends. "Ethan's greeting the groom," she said lightly. "He told me to come over first." She pushed one of the glasses toward me with a sweet smile. "Tessa, about what happened at the studio last time, I really am sorry. I was impulsive. Ethan scolded me a lot afterward. I've reflected on it deeply. This drink is my apology to you. I hope you won't be mad at me anymore. And don't be mad at Ethan either, okay?" She blinked her big, watery eyes, her voice so soft it was almost dripping. I looked at the clear glass but didn't touch it. "I accept the apology," I said calmly. My eyes drifted past her, toward the distance, toward Ethan, who was chatting with the bride and groom. He was wearing a charcoal gray suit tailored perfectly for him. His tall frame stood out in the crowd. As he spoke and laughed, he radiated a calm confidence. As if sensing my gaze, he turned. When he saw Samantha and me sitting together, his face relaxed instantly into a relieved, slightly comforting smile. He even raised his glass toward me from afar as if saying, "Good. Finally settled. Look at him." He was definitely thinking Samantha's apology, and my letting her sit beside me meant that everything had been resolved. He was probably even proud of his ability to fix conflicts. Samantha followed my gaze, and the smile on her lips deepened, carrying a faint but unmistakable hint of triumph. "Tessa, see, Ethan cares about you so much. He keeps looking over here." Then she leaned closer and lowered her voice. "Honestly, he's been under a lot of pressure lately. He's negotiating several big projects. Miss Warren has been supervising him so closely, he can barely sleep. Tessa, is your work still okay? If you're too busy, I can help take care of some of the smaller things for Ethan. Don't overwork yourself." Her words sounded caring, but every sentence was a blade. Before I could respond, Ethan walked over. He naturally sat down in the chair beside Samantha, forming a triangle that felt suffocatingly suggestive. He sat close to her, then leaned forward to look at me through her shoulder. "What are you two talking about?" he asked gently, in the tone one might use to coax a child. His hand reached across Samantha to take the champagne glass in front of me, the one she had just pushed over. "This girl knows she was wrong," he said. "So don't keep giving her that cold face. It's a happy day. Smile a little." His long fingers and the watch on his wrist caught the light, reflecting a cold glimmer. Samantha instantly tilted her body slightly, giving him space to reach across, her expression showing just the right amount of shyness and fluster as if his closeness left her unsure of what to do. I looked at that hand reaching toward me so naturally and at his face that clearly said, "She already apologized. What more do you want?" My stomach twisted. He had no idea that Samantha's so-called apology was just another deeper form of insult. The fact that he brought her to the wedding of a mutual friend, a meaningful event for both of us, was in itself a declaration, a humiliation. "I'm happy," I said, pulling my hand away from his and lifting the champagne glass. I drained it in one go. The icy liquid slid down my throat, pressing hard against the nausea rising inside me. Of course it was a happy thing. Two people in love finally ending up together. I deliberately emphasized the last 4 words. Ending up together. Ethan's hand froze in midair. His brows tightened slightly, as if he thought I was still being unreasonable, still making things difficult, still not knowing my place. Samantha immediately stepped in to smooth things over, her voice soft as water. Right? The bride is so gorgeous today, and the wedding dress is beautiful too. Ethan, don't you think so? She looked up at him with admiration and dependence glowing in her eyes. Ethan answered casually, but his gaze remained fixed on me, filled with impatience and a hint of probing. Oh, right, he suddenly added. Miss Warren asked about you yesterday. She said she couldn't reach you. Even if you're busy, you still have to take care of your health. His tone carried a note of scolding, as if he truly cared about me. Before I could respond, Samantha let out a sudden gasp. I didn't know how she managed it, but more than half her drink spilled onto her dress. The carefully chosen gown now had a large, ugly, dark stain spreading across it. I'm sorry, she blurted, jumping to her feet, cheeks flushing as she looked helplessly between Ethan and me. Her eyes brimmed instantly. I didn't mean to. What do I do now? Ethan immediately stood up, pulling out tissues to help her wipe it. His brows tightened. How are you so careless? His voice carried reluctant frustration and a touch of indulgence that was hard to miss. Then he looked up at me. Tessa, did you bring a spare outfit or? His eyes scanned the hall, clearly trying to find somewhere she could change or clean up. All the guests around us were now drawn to the small commotion. Samantha bit her lip, eyes shimmering with tears, clinging close to Ethan like a frightened little deer seeking shelter in his arms as if he were her only refuge, and I was the heartless outsider sitting still at my table. No, I didn't, I responded calmly. I picked up a tissue and slowly dabbed the corner of my mouth. But I'm sure the estate has a restroom and an emergency dryer. Since she's your assistant, she should be more familiar with handling things like this than I am. I put deliberate emphasis on the word assistant. Samantha flinched slightly. Ethan looked at me with a complicated expression, disapproving of my coldness, but also pitying Samantha's distress. Come on, I'll take you, he said gently to Samantha. Then he turned to me and said, Stay here for a moment. I watched the two of them walk away. Ethan leaned toward her protectively, while she nestled into him like a timid bird seeking the nearest branch. And that stain on her dress, so messy and glaring, hung there like a hideous medal, announcing her temporary victory in this silent war. What a perfectly harmonious picture. I set down my glass, took the chance to say goodbye to the bride. Oh, Ethan came too? She asked, surprised. Doesn't matter, I said with a smile. Today you're the star. Congratulations. My gaze flicked toward the two figures hurrying back from the distance. Ethan looked obviously anxious, and Samantha had already changed into a pale blue backup dress, appearing even more delicate and pitiful. Then I turned away and walked out into the quiet night without the slightest hesitation. Outside the estate, I faintly heard Ethan shouting behind me, angry. Tessa, where are you going? I didn't look back. When I got home in the middle of the night, my grandmother paused for just a second before saying nothing at all. She turned into the kitchen. A pot of soup was reheating on the stove. She'd been preparing noodles for me. Noodles? She asked. Yes, I answered. I leaned against the kitchen doorframe, looking at her slightly hunched but quick-moving figure. My nose stung. This was home. A place where no one asked why, where a bowl of hot soup was enough. Grandma, I sniffed. Will you go with me tomorrow? Her hand stopped stirring the soup for a moment, but she didn't turn around. Where? She asked. To the place Mom left behind, I said softly. The woman who once opened her eyes because of love. The one who left everything behind. I had been little, and my grandmother was already old and frail when my mother followed a man who only knew how to paint grand dreams by the sea. He said he would open a seaside homestead overlooking the water blooming with spring flowers. In the end, the homestead was half dead from the start, and that man ran off with all the money, leaving my mother alone by the shore with a pile of debt. She died there full of sorrow. That rundown home became a thorn my grandmother could never pull out of her heart, and a lesson about blind love carved deeply into my childhood. She stayed silent for a long time, long enough for the soup to nearly spill over. Then she turned off the stove, faced me and said, "Fine, let's go see what that foolish girl left behind, just how bad it actually is." A few days later, my grandmother and I stood before the homestead called Borrowed Time. It sat alone by the seaside cliffs. The salty wind howled, making the old sign creak. The walls were stained. The wooden railing on the balcony was rotting apart. The garden was overrun with weeds, and a few broken beach chairs were tossed crookedly in a corner. A cold, desolate scene. This was the true face of love and promises. My grandmother looked around with tightly pressed lips, saying nothing. She pushed open the rusty gate and stepped inside. No sighing, no complaining. She set her luggage down, rolled up her sleeves, and began pulling weeds in the yard. I rolled up mine and joined her, clearing weeds, cleaning, salvaging whatever furniture could still be used. Sweat mixed with the sea breeze and stuck to my skin, and though my body was exhausted, my heart felt strangely peaceful. Here there was no Ethan, no Samantha, no endless operational tasks, no emotional fatigue, only the sound of waves crashing and occasionally my grandmother's familiar muttering. We were like two diligent ants slowly cleaning up the remnants a loved one had left behind. She handled the simple repairs. I began researching how to make the place functional again. Contacting roof repairers, replacing rotten wood, repainting walls, the money draining like water. My grandmother winced at every expense, but she didn't stop me. Maybe this was her way of making peace with the past. Or maybe she simply wanted to give this wreck a bit of dignity. Over time, life settled into a rhythm that matched the waves. We worked during the day. Then in the evenings we sat together on the little balcony we had just cleaned, ate a simple meal, listened to the ocean, and watched the sunset paint the water gold. My grandmother started talking more, sometimes telling clumsy childhood stories about my mother. There was no resentment in her voice anymore, only longing and regret. I listened quietly, and suddenly I felt the thorn called mother inside my chest soften in the sea breeze. Just when I thought life had finally slipped into a new peaceful orbit, my phone rang. The screen showed Miss Warren's name. I hesitated, then picked up. "Tessa." Miss Warren's voice was unusually urgent. "Where are you?" "Something big happened with Ethan." I stepped out to the balcony. The sea wind roared against the phone. "Miss Warren," I resigned. I said calmly. "I'd already decided before coming here." "I know," she said quickly. "But now is not the time to talk about that." Her voice was almost breaking. "Ethan's social media account. Wasn't Samantha the one managing it? She's caused a huge mess." "What mess?" I asked out of reflex. Then immediately I felt foolish. What did any of this have to do with me anymore? She posted on the wrong account. Those complaints about terrible crew meals, the grumbling about the director being too strict, those were meant for Ethan's private alt account so he could vent. She posted everything publicly on his official account instead. Even though it was deleted right away, netizens already took screenshots and spread them everywhere. There are already 3 exploding hot search tags. Everyone online was cursing him, calling him arrogant, unprofessional, saying his public image had collapsed. Ms. Warren spoke so fast she was practically out of breath. "And that's not even the worst part," she continued. "Samantha used his official account to like posts dragging other male actors from his generation. A few of them were clearly fan wars, and now the internet's dug up every single one. Other fandoms and casual viewers are mocking him, saying his temperament is awful, saying he's two-faced." I listened, and it wasn't hard to imagine the chaos with Samantha's shallow mindset and limited abilities. Of course, she couldn't handle the responsibility of managing his account. An artist is like a live landmine. She only saw the superficial glamour but didn't understand that every caption, every like, every interaction had to be calculated precisely to protect his image. "Miss Warren, this is your team's PR crisis. I said you all should handle it. I've reminded you plenty of times already. We are handling it, but the fallout is huge." Her voice was a mix of exhaustion and anger. With things like this happening, the luxury ambassador contract Ethan just secured, the brand already called. Their attitude is hard to read. The lead role in Project S is also wavering now. He's like a ghost right now, Miss Warren took a harsh breath. And the worst part, he just found out you quit. He's losing his mind trying to find you. He called and you didn't answer. Went to your apartment and you weren't there. Went to the studio and realized you cleared out your things. That's when he panicked for real. He yelled at me. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Tessa, he's in terrible shape. He locked himself in the studio and started smashing things. No one can stop him. I think he finally realized you're really gone, and that you left at the exact moment he needs you the most. If he doesn't cooperate with PR right now, he's done. Miss Warren hadn't even finished speaking when behind me, the reinforced wooden door of the home suddenly crashed open. A gust of sea wind swept in a tall, disheveled figure. Ethan had actually found his way here. His hair was a mess, his eyes bloodshot, veins visible. His expensive suit jacket was wrinkled and crushed in his hand. 2 buttons on his shirt were undone. His whole body radiated a wild, explosive energy. He completely ignored my grandmother, who was fixing a chair in the yard. His burning red eyes locked onto me instantly. Tessa, he shouted, his voice breaking with fury and panic. You really quit? You actually quit? How could you not tell me? My grandmother jumped, startled, the hammer in her hand clattering loudly to the ground. She straightened up and stared at the strange man barging into her home, her eyes full of warning. I lowered my phone and gave her a small, reassuring nod. Ethan took several quick steps toward the porch, breathing hard as he looked up at me. Did you see the hot search tags? Did you see that mess? It's all ruined. Everything, the ambassador deal, the projects, the reputation I've built for 10 years gone. He threw an arm out wildly like a cornered animal. Are you happy now? Did you know this would happen? Were you waiting to watch me fall apart? The sea wind tore apart the edges of his words, making them sound even more distorted and pitiful. On the phone, Miss Warren's worried voice was still leaking through. Tessa, what's happening over there? I looked at Ethan, the man unraveling in front of me, desperately dumping all blame at my feet. And at last something heavy settled in my chest. Ethan, I said, my voice cutting through the wind, calm, almost emotionless. Your work, your reputation, your projects, what do they have to do with me? Remember, we broke up. He froze as if slapped. His bloodshot eyes went wide. He stared at me with an expression of utter disbelief. Of course he hadn't forgotten. He just never considered any of it serious. He had forgotten that what I gave him was never something he was entitled to. And as for my resignation, I let out a faint, cold, mocking smile. Did I need to report it to you? Just like you never needed to tell me why you gave Samantha the studio passcode, or why you brought her to our mutual friend's wedding, or why you let her overstep my boundaries again and again. Ethan's face turned ghostly pale. He opened his mouth as if to say something, but when he met my gaze, stripped of warmth, stripped of anything soft, he found no words. There's nothing left, I said, looking straight at him, each word hitting like a nail. You're not welcome here, so please get out of my mother's place. The sound of waves suddenly seemed louder, crashing against the cliffs as if shattering whatever last glimmer of hope remained in Ethan's eyes. He stumbled back a step, staring at me, standing calmly on the balcony, then looked toward my grandmother, who stood like a grim guardian at my side. And finally he understood. I wasn't turning back. Tessa, you really want to abandon me? He choked out. I looked at the man who once shone like light itself, now pitiful to the point of being unrecognizable. Yet inside me nothing stirred. Abandon you? I repeated his question. Ethan, you abandoned me first. Or more accurately, you got so used to standing on the pedestal I built for you. So used to looking down on everything, including my feelings. His body trembled. Confusion and pain filled his eyes. I never meant to throw you away. Samantha, she's just stupid. She's the manipulative one. She's the one who tried to pull us apart. She's the one who ruined everything. And me, I was just too busy, too exhausted that I became careless with your feelings. But I swear I never loved her. I never betrayed you. I never physically or emotionally. He spoke as though dumping everything onto Samantha and work would wash him clean, turning him into some kind of blind, unfortunate victim. I let out a quiet, humorless laugh. Ethan, you've acted your whole life. Have you acted so much you've forgotten what it means to be a real person? He flinched, looking up at me with stunned eyes. Betrayal. I stepped down 2 steps, closing the distance between us. Do you think betrayal only means cheating physically? You let her invade our private space. You let her share moments that belonged only to us. You stood right in front of me and protected her. Felt sorry for her. Let her cling to you like a vine, draining away everything that should have been mine. You let her siphon off the attention and security that belonged to me. My voice stayed soft, but every word was a blade. And you enjoyed it. You enjoyed her admiration, her dependence. You liked being needed, being worshipped. Maybe to you that doesn't count as betrayal. Maybe you just forgot the path we walked together. Ethan's face grew paler by the second. The scenes I described hit him like a torn, dust-covered film reel, slamming back into his mind. The rehearsal room lights that stayed on all night, the damp walls of our old rented room, the way his eyes searched for me through the crowd during his award speech, the endless late nights I sat beside him without fail. Maybe only now did he finally understand that his smooth tenure career didn't come from talent and effort alone. It was because I had silently built a solid wall behind him, shielding him from every storm, so he could stand under the bright lights without fear. He had lived with that wall for so long that he forgot it was there. But only when the wall collapsed did he realize how weak he truly was when the storm stripped him bare. And everything I said, it wasn't out of lingering affection. I understood the weight of words, understood how sensitive actors were. And above all, I understood Ethan better than anyone. I said all of this so that in this exact moment he could finally see what he had lost. Tessa. His voice trembled as he reached out to grab my wrist. I was wrong. I swear I know I was wrong. I was trash. I let fame blind me. I forgot everything you gave me. Tessa, give me another chance. Just one last chance. I'll fire Samantha right now. I pulled my hand away, firmly widening the distance between us. Ethan, I said, in my view of love, there's no such thing as a mistake. Betrayal of the heart disgusts me even more than betrayal of the body. As for his chaos, his face was already darkening. I spoke with a cold, flat voice. That's between you, Miss Warren, and your manipulative assistant. It has nothing to do with me. I turned to my grandmother, who had been silently standing beside me the whole time, her eyes stern. Let's go inside. The wind was strong. She nodded, bent down to pick up her hammer, and without giving Ethan even a glance, walked into the house. The wooden door closed softly behind me, shutting out his figure for the last time and cutting off 10 years of entanglement between us. Inside was the warmth of a hot cup of tea my grandmother handed me, the salty scent of the sea and a peace that finally felt like mine. I didn't know when Ethan left and I didn't care. Renovating and reviving the home, which I translated into English as Harbor Light, filled my entire mind and heart. My grandmother's hands-on skills, combined with my operational planning, gradually brought life back to a place that once symbolized a broken love story. I created a separate account for Harbor Light not to serve any celebrity anymore, but to document its rebirth with my whole heart. The peeling walls were repainted a warm cream white. The rotting balcony rails were replaced with solid wooden beams. The overgrown garden was replanted with succulents and climbing roses. We placed comfortable wicker chairs on the balcony. Every small change came with the sound of ocean waves and my grandmother's familiar complaints. Cost too much. I no longer edited photos to perfection or crafted carefully calculated captions for public persona building. Instead, I simply recorded real life by the sea, raw, simple, full of vitality. And somehow that sincerity, the feeling of rebirth from ruins, drew in many young people weary of the noise of the city. Booking slowly grew. It wasn't crowded, but it was enough for us to live peacefully. One afternoon Miss Warren called again. She sounded tired but calmer. The seashell wind chime hanging on the door jingled softly in the ocean breeze. Hello, do you still have a room available? A young male voice asked, clear, lazy, and magnetic. I looked up. Standing at the entrance was a young man, tall, wearing a simple white t-shirt and loose cargo pants, with a huge travel backpack slung over his shoulders. The sunset outlined his tall figure, making him look like a budding sprout full of life, waiting for sunlight and storms to shape him. We do, I said, setting my pen down with a professional smile. How many people and how many nights? He grinned, revealing a set of straight white teeth, a clean, slightly mischievous smile. His eyes met mine openly, curious and unrestrained. Just me. How long I stay depends on my mood. He drawled the last part as he stepped into the courtyard, dropping his backpack casually by his feet. His gaze swept across the freshly restored yard and balcony, then landed back on me, glimmering with playful sharpness. "This place looks even better than the photos," he said, raising his brows. "Is the owner you or your sister?" The sea breeze blew through the open gate, ruffling his hair and carrying the scent of sunlight and freedom right toward me. A name flashed instantly in my mind. Liam Hayes. The golden sunset filled the yard, casting a long shadow behind him. The waves kept rolling onto the shore, steady as ever, yet somehow carrying a brand new rhythm. Looking at his youthful, vibrant face and that gaze full of curiosity and unhidden hunger for the world, I suddenly felt something inside me long dormant ignite gently again under the sea wind. A new story perhaps had just begun,